Wanted to hop on here just to refer to a question somebody has sent me. It's a lot easier to make a video. A lot of these, all of these videos I make, uh, all these videos that are made are like just sharing personal experience and how non-duality or Dwaita or inquiry or listening or something has really helped myself, this experience anyways. And so you just know that when I'm sharing, I'm not like a licensed psychotherapist or something, nor do I want to be. I do work with an embodiment technique, but I'm not like a licensed psychiatrist or something. This is like personal experience. Um, so essentially, what I wanted to touch on was when it comes to like depressive thoughts or emotions, let's say, there's not really a need to discern depressive thoughts for me to just thoughts because they come from the same factory, yeah? And what's I think important is to see that you're not the factory. So oftentimes what can happen is like, I just use this tea lid for a sec. What can happen is that there's thoughts that come up, whether the contents of them is I'm a piece of shit or this is a great meal or something. Yeah, there's a thought moving through. The only thing giving it the meaning or the discernment of a good or bad thought is more thought. But the thing that happens a lot is that their thought moves up through you and then there's a seeing of the thought. Yes? So a lot of people stop there. But the problem is this is a dualistic thing. Yeah, there's an object which is the thought, and then there's the sense of being the one who's seeing the thought. So there's a subjectivity to the object of thought. Yeah. So essentially, this object of thought used to be the false subjectivity, and then you see that well, I can see that thought. So there's a subjectivity now to this false first subjectivity, which is now an object. But this is still dualistic, you see? You're not the arising of the thought or the idea of being the seer of the thought. If you think you're the seer of the thought, you're bound to self. And then when those thoughts come up, you are seemingly still bound to them as the thinker. The thing is when the thoughts are let's say alcoholic thoughts or are depressive thoughts or are angry thoughts, you're super bound to them by being the thinker of them, and you can't understand why you're not getting relief or they're not stopping. It's because you seemingly feel that you are the seer of the thoughts, but there is no seer. You can't think two thoughts at the same time. So just in my experience, what I notice is there's like a bunch of depressive thoughts, and then between them, there's a thought of, oh, I'm seeing the thoughts, and then there's more, I'm seeing, and it's bouncing back and forth between subject object, yeah? I feel like I'm the objective thought, and then I feel like I'm the subjective thought looking at the objective thought, and I'm fucking neither of them. This is the key to get relief. Yeah, you're not the seer. There is no seer. There's seeing of this process happening. But if you're taking yourself to be the seer of the thought, then you're bound to the back and forth and you're seemingly not getting free. Yes? Or even worse, sometimes you feel like you're free because the thoughts are positive or they're non-intrusive, let's say. Yes? And then what happens is intrusive thoughts come in, like depression thoughts, or I'm a piece of shit, or I'm going to fail, or I already have failed, or I am failing. This shit comes in, yeah? And then seemingly you're going in and out of depression, yeah? But you, as going in and out of depression, that can only happen if you are bound to the movement of the thought being good or being bad. The bondage is not as the thought, it's as the seer of the thought. There is no seer of the thought. Yes? So when you see a thought arise, you can meet it with I'm not that. And it's not like I'm not that. Like it doesn't, I'm going to destroy it or It's not arising. It's fucking arising, and it will continue to arise. But you meet it with I'm not that, and then when you see that come up, the I'm not that you also meet that with a very silent I'm not that. It's just a noticing, yeah? It's not like a pushing away or trying to get out of shit. This is the thing. Non-duality is not a way to like forcefully improve this fucking situation. It's free from self, not as self. Yes? So it's not that maybe depressive thoughts are never going to come up. This is not this is not the point. The point is to see that when they arise, you're not the arising of it and you're not the one seeing the arising of it. So you're never not free from what's arising. Yes? And then it doesn't matter if the thoughts are quote unquote good or bad. There's just a neutrality to the whole fucking movement. This is the peace. The peace, the Peace, that is ever present, you see? The thing with Advaita and non-duality and self-inquiry that I have found, because the head is fucked, my head loves to try to figure shit out and think its way through it all, is that it takes that inquiry, the head takes the inquiry as the seer, and it sticks you to being the seer because it's using inquiry to reinforce its selfness or its seership or its existence, let's say. Um, and it's a place where I have personally gotten stuck, but I feel when I talk to people, it's where they get stuck as well. They're inquiring into the thoughts, you know. But then we seemingly, because of that, we're reinforced as the inquirer, and there is no inquirer. Inquiry is a way to see both of these. So it's like the thought comes up, who does that arise to? Me. And then the who am I is the question to both of them at the same time, yeah? But it can get stuck on being the me, the seer, the I, the thinker, the feeler, the taster, the toucher, the hearer. One thing I noticed that was helpful and still is helpful is this text from, I guess Zen or Chan maybe. I don't know. It's called Yasunkana by this teacher named Hakuin. But in it is a practice called soft butter method, where it's like you feel there's a piece of butter. It's like a visualization, yeah? And you feel like that butter melts down through the internal space and external space of the body right down to the feet. And that's been super fucking useful for me because it shuts down all of that grabbing of the me, because it lowers, the whole system gets calmed down. It also puts you completely inside your body so that when you're inquiring into the me, you're not inquiring outside of yourself, because that will never stop. The inquiry has to be an internal, inside the body, finding the me. Who am I inside the body? Yeah. If it goes external, the senses are grabbing at objects, the ears are grabbing at sound, the eyes are grabbing at form, and it just becomes too fucking messy. Because the energy is too high up in thought as far as inquiry. That practice, the soft butter method, settles this whole thing down. And if you do it over months of time, you get essentially better at it, yeah? Because non-duality is not like a method or something, yeah? Who am I is not a meditation. These are like messages as to the direct understanding of what we are, yeah? But the fucking system can still be jacked. That's the thing, yeah. Especially when it comes to depression and stuff, it's important to discern, like, is your depression a chemical thing, which is just completely is like way out to lunch at this point, or are you more chilled out? It's just important to know where you're sitting, I feel. Even though Advaita and non-duality is for everybody, and it doesn't really matter depressive thoughts or not depressive thoughts, we're just looking at the thinker, really. Does the thinker exist, But it's if your system is too jacked up to meet it with inquiry or something, is not going to be effective because it's just going to jack it up more. This is why I love this melting butter method, because it takes the body and the mind and it just settles the whole thing down. And it brings it internal rather than getting pulled out of ourselves. And in doing that, then the inquiry, you can really meet it with inquiry. And the inquiry gets very like soft and quiet rather than a loud kind of panicked searching to get out of some sort of discomfort. So hopefully that answers the question of the person who sent me the email. The thing is, the important matter is to see that you're not the one seeing the thoughts, that there's not a one there. And that disentangles you from the whole process. And then the process might change. Yeah, in my experience, the process, the mental system and stuff changes a lot. It quiets down, for one, but the contents of it is just different, Even musically, I find it different. The experience for the body is different at that point. But it's really, you've got to see that you're not the thought and you're not the thinker. If you're living as the thinker, you're bound to what's thought, yeah? So whether it's, like I mentioned, good thoughts, quote unquote, or bad thoughts, you're bound either way. So the swinging is like I go in and out of depression, right? I go in and out of depression, but who's the I that's going in and out of depression? Because really, in my experience, it's in and out of good thoughts to bad thoughts. Good thoughts to bad thoughts, good thoughts to bad thoughts, which is obviously dualistic. There's a two there. But there's a one who feels that they're going in and out of two good thoughts and bad thoughts. Yeah. Now that swinging good, bad, in my experience, that is what comes back to center, like a neutrality, when you disentangle from being the one that's arising to. And that, for me, is like the key of non-duality. It's like Ramana would always say, keep your focus on the I. Yeah, don't go out chasing second person, third person, which would be good thoughts, bad thoughts. Keep your attention on the I internally. Because eventually you will see the non-existence of that I, and then whatever moves through the space, quote unquote, good thoughts and bad thoughts, it doesn't pull anymore. So now you're not going in and out of depression, you're not fucking going anywhere. You're just, there's a neutrality there to whatever movement goes left and right. And that's like the basis of relief. Yeah. Because you are always reality, but the thing is people take it to be I am the reality, but there's no self. Yeah. This is why I like the Buddhist approach to this. There's no I there. But you can't just know it. Because if you know it intellectually, then there's one feeling that they're the knower still, and you're still fucking bound to it. So whether the thoughts are good or quote unquote bad, you're fucking bound to that movement if you're the knower of this message, let's say. Yeah. It's why I love, again, the haiku and shit, because it takes all of this cognitive, I know it, but I don't know it, and it just douses the whole thing in that movement downward in the body. Puts you inside the body, it settles the senses, it melts all the tension away, the mental tension starts to settle a lot, and then you can see, if you inquire there, yeah, or if you hit it with like the idea of listening, what's being heard cannot be the hearing of that. Yeah? What's being listened to is not listening. So when there's a thought, you notice it, and then you also can hear or perceive the feeling or the idea or the sensation that you're the one seeing the thought. So you're not either. There you go. You don't even have to meet it with I'm not that, I'm not that. You're just settled inside the body and you see that when they arise, there's nothing there. Yeah? That opens you up to the possibility that whatever arises can't touch you. Yeah? As what you are, which is no thing. Yeah? That's the best we can, like, I feel, touch on it. If the best we can do is talk about what you're not, essentially. So when thought comes up, you're not that. When the idea of being the seer of that thought comes up, you're not that. Yeah. So hopefully that answers the question, because that, at least in my experience, that has been very, very helpful to me. And then the contents of what's happening in the head, to be honest, I don't really care that much about. Because I know it's false either way, because it's not based on anything. It's based on a programming. Yeah. And the swinging in and out of good and bad comes from the identification as me being the one swinging in and out. And this is not the case. Yeah. There can be a swinging, but there's nothing it's appearing to. There's no solid thing there. And that's like the relief from the swinging. Yeah. Is to see that you're not trying to change the swinging of the head. You're not using this message to try to alter that. The message is to look at who is that arising to, and is that there? In my experience, it's not. So then swing on. The head can swing on.